the relationships that skip steps are also the ones that end up kind of crashing and burning. And they're also the ones that, if I look back, couldn't have done well because they were built on a foundation of garbage. Zena had a really great insight and I wanted to share it. This is a Zena insight, so I don't want credit given to me. One of the things I've noticed in the last year is that in being polyamorous, I have noticed an interesting phenomenon. And that is that, you know, I flirted with a lot of people in DM. I'm a relatively attractive 42-year-old. But essentially, the thing that I wanted to bring up is that Zena had this really great insight a while back, and it came up again recently. I had been flirting with a Australian trans girl who I really, really liked. She was really sweet. She also kind of jerked me around a bunch. And it wasn't great. And there's some definitely self-destructive behaviors this person deals in. Excessive drinking. Far be it for me to judge anyone who wants to get double railed at a furry convention, but this is not my cup of tea. This person and I separated recently because they came across a thread online. If you're a content creator of any size, you will have people who make large threads talking about all of the evils you've ever done. This person found this thread. They ended up asked me about it, but rather than like believe me or like hear me out, they sort of like asked me and then immediately went to that this looked abusive to them. They had taken a screenshot out of context and like this became a thing. And I might talk more about this another time, but this person had been like flirting with me despite having a boyfriend and being ostensibly monogamous, and had also been flirting with another guy. And so this has a really like weird vibe to it. And I was kind of already coming to the conclusion this person wasn't going to be great for me. But when this all happened, essentially what went on was basically I got this message saying, well, this looks scary. I don't think I'm going to come out there, and I am, I just want to be friends. And first off, we're just friends. Yeah, we're already just friends. And there was no actual plan for her to come out. This had been like a side thought of, hey, if you come to the US, you might be able to stop by kind of thing. What ended up happening is Zizi and I were talking about this, and I was kind of heartbroken because despite this person having their difficulties, like I really do like them. But the thing is, they were like, well, let's just be friends. And I'm going to be really clear. Like, if you're going to call my partner like awful shit based on a simple screenshot out of context, I'm going to be really clear. Like, I'm not going to be friends with you. Like, that's awful. So I ended up disconnecting from this person. And Zizi made this reference of like, one of the things that I've noticed is the people that don't last very long with you, or the people that seem to kind of spiral out of control, is the people who skip steps. And I was like, well, what do you mean skip steps? And Zena was like, well, skip steps in regards to the stages of relationship, right? So like in this girl's case, it's like, well, if she wanted to pursue me, she either needed to change the format of her relationship, which initially it was open. She's allowed to do whatever she wanted with other girls.
With a catch.
Which the catch is you're not allowed to catch feels, right?
And only girls.
Yeah, and only girls. And so what ends up happening is like there is this sort of like, okay, well, that's weird, but she caught feels. And so, okay, rule broken. So you need to clearly address that, but never did. And so like there was a step skipped. Then there was a step skipped in regards to kind of creating a like connection where it was like initially she was doing the BPD thing where she was telling me like, I would ruin all your relationships. I would cause all these problems. And it's like, okay, you're just doing the typical BPD push away thing because you're trying not to engage. And she eventually admitted she was, and she it happened. And so long story short is that the problem is that when people skip steps, they end up trying to jump to parts of relationships that haven't been built. The way my therapist talked about it today, because I had a therapy session, was like, it's like building a bridge, and the bridge works. It will get across, but it isn't sustainable. It doesn't have good foundation.
Yeah, you didn't take the time to build up like the rapport or work on conflict or like honoring people's needs, right? Like
my perspective is that this skipping step thing actually really makes sense. And I think there's some point we'll have a discussion about this more in full as we kind of play with it in our heads, but I wanted to share it with you because it feels really important. This happened again with another person recently. There was a person who had been just a friend of ours. We had been flirting, me, Zizi, and this person. And like, there had been kind of this like back and forth. And this person had ostensibly a partner, and despite having a partner and the rules clearly stating that not allowed to send nudes, this person would send us nudes. And it would be like, oh, well, what? One point the conversation just went to, hey, once I am out of the relationship, hey, would you collar me? And it wasn't like buy me a leather collar and just do some kink with me once. It was literally like eternity collar stuff. So those who don't engage in kink, there are collars you can buy for your subs that are called eternity collars. They are made of fucking titanium. You measure them out to be the right size for the neck of the person you're getting it for, so it doesn't hurt them. But you literally like.
This is something that you can leave on in the shower. So
yeah, like they literally latch on. This is literally like the equivalency of a wedding ring in kink circles. And so the problem is that like asking to go to that level is essentially like, yeah, it's a hex key in the back. Yeah, exactly. Yes, canonically trans, that is a massively large step.
Yeah, there was no kink relationship like established.
Custom titanium stuff is not cheap. Yeah, it sounds expensive. Yeah, these are around $250. And they come in different colors and various things, but yeah, they're not inexpensive. Yes, that is like marriage. Yeah, it is exactly like marriage. 1000% Missy Red. So the relationships that skip steps are also the ones that end up kind of crashing and burning. And they're also the ones that, if I look back, couldn't have done well because they were built on a foundation of garbage. There was so many, there was no building of relationship. There was no time taken. And it's not to say you can't move fast. It just means you can't skip steps. Like sometimes you'll move to a thing. Like I'll give you a perfect example. Like one of my girlfriends I have a relationship with where like we don't say I love you. We say I like you or you're pretty or things like that. But that's, she wants things to be more casual. And so we keep it that way. But I have another partner who is okay with me saying it, but isn't ready to do so herself. And so she'll send like I heart you or things like that because she has a tendency to give her heart away too quickly. I also do that. I just don't care. And so like different discussions, different relationships move at different speeds as long as they don't skip steps. And so part of this is building up a relationship in this regard. Please feel free to jump in at any. If you don't skip steps, it's easier to go back and forth without feeling hurt, getting hurt. Yeah, which is not actual relationship. I would argue that like, so Misty Red in chat said, and I'm not trying to pick on you, but it's like, if you don't skip steps, it's easier to go back and forth without feelings getting hurt. But that's the point of relationship. You should get hurt. Relationship is about vulnerability. You don't make a connection. Then you said this, there's
that I'm like, it all like, that's just such a broad statement that like, I don't know, like if you were engaged to somebody for like a couple years and you guys decided like, no, we're not engaged anymore. That's a big one. Like what? No, it's hard to go backward into things.
No, I'm actually confused that there are steps. Well, yeah, I mean, there are steps, right? There's
okay, if you get in a room with somebody and you just immediately start kissing them, is that appropriate?
I love what Radis in chat, the other chat said, relationship building codes. That's so fucking funny.
Yeah, okay, like, no, it's not appropriate, like, right? If you're at a kink party and you negotiated something beforehand, okay, that's a separate situation, guys. But otherwise, no. I don't care if you're autistic. That's not relevant here. There are still steps, okay? You still have to get to know people. You need to get to know people in the way of, hey, what's your name? Hey, tell me a little bit about yourself. What kind of interests do you have? Why don't we talk a little bit? All right. Hey, are you comfy with physical contact? That's a really good one. Okay. What kind of physical contact are you comfy with? Now, sometimes we have like various signals, but like it gets really wonky if you just skipped all of talking about an interest with somebody and just went right to having sex. And that's it. That's all you know about this person. You like having sex with them. You have no idea what the rest of their life is like. Well, and what are you building there?
Yeah, so going back to the stories, because this is what Zizi's pointing at, and Zizi's doing a really great job of it, is, so if I go back to the stories of like the Australian girl, the skipping steps was immediately sort of forging an emotional relationship, but not actually dealing with it, not actually taking that up with the boyfriend and actually acknowledging it or working through that. The same thing is true with the other person we brought up, where again, jumping to collar me, yeah, that sounds hot in the abstract, but then what happens is that you suddenly realize there's all of these steps of trust and growth and togetherness that are being ignored that need to be sort of like cemented. And so that's the thing is what Zizi is using as sort of a hyperbolic example is like just rushing in the room and just fucking tackling and kissing someone. Probably not a good first meeting. In the same way where just jumping to these other steps, like you wouldn't just walk up to someone randomly and ask them to marry you. Well, why would you ask someone to collar you? Or why would you ask someone, why would you, if you suddenly get feelings for someone, why wouldn't you bring that to your significant other? These are just things to be aware of. And to me, I think the thing that I'm bringing up is that just understanding this is something that is really important. Communication is key. Agreed. Ghostly Blurry
Well,
Face said, Poppy,
I
can,
would add to communication with yourself too. Like knowing yourself and doing that self exploration is really, really big too.
Ghostly Blurry Face said, Poppy, can you expand on what you exactly meant by you should get hurt in relationships? In what way? What kind of hurt are we talking about? What instances of hurt could be beneficial? Because I've never heard that. It's always been bad. I'm going to make it really clear. This is going to be kind of sound doomery. It's not at all. It's just the reality of things. All relationships end in breakup or death. Zen 101. All relationships end in breakup or death. In order for a relationship to exist, there has to be attachment. You have to create a connection. When that attachment gets broken, either by breakup or death, guess what? It fucking hurts. It is the porcupine's dilemma. It's literally like half the plot of Evangelion. In order to make the connection between two porcupines for them to actually get intimacy and connect, they have to brave each other's quills and potentially get hurt. In order to connect with others, I have to risk getting hurt. And that's just what it is. Sometimes you're going to get hurt. Sometimes your partner is going to break your fucking heart. Sometimes your partner is going to do something stupid. Hell, me and ZZ still do stupid shit. We got in a dumb fight today where we both acted like morons. And then afterwards we're hugging and crying. But again, it's this idea of, again, like this notion that by skipping steps, what you're doing is trying to, it's much like the therapy speak thing where you're sort of avoiding the intimacy. You're not really connecting. You're just trying to jump to the stuff you like. Gabriella Things said, okay, so I get personal boundaries with what someone can do to you personally. What I don't get are boundaries that are about what the other person can do with other people. So I would say, depending on the language, that wouldn't be a boundary. What I actually would say is that's an agreement. And again, that would come down to certain, like, the semantics, but like in Frank Vo's book, More Than Two, and Frank Vo's a cunt, but his book is quite good. He defines things differently between what he calls a rule and an agreement. And so, for example, what an agreement would be is, so me and ZZ are poly, right? And so if we start actively being sexual with our partners, the agreement we have in our relationship is to get regular STI testing. Now, granted, we haven't been super sexual with our partners for various reasons, so we haven't really had to worry about that. But the reality is that when that does come up, you know, there's this thing of getting regular STI testing for the safety of everybody that's connected, not just the people that are in our poly group, but also their metamors, etc. That's an agreement because it affects both of us. Frank defines a rule as something that affects one person. So you said affecting someone's behavior. If I tell Zena, like, okay, you're going to go out with Sage, that's cool, just don't go to my favorite restaurant. Well, that clearly isn't a rule that affects me. It's not an agreement. It's a rule. I'm trying to create a blockade.
They're to take care of insecurities or
yeah, and so the thing is that's
or something.
Yeah, and that's where the problem gets into it is a rule becomes a thing that's becomes a control mechanism. So I tend to favor the idea of agreements, and agreements do have standards to them. So like, it's not about controlling someone's behavior. It's holding them to a standard that they've agreed to. I don't like the language of control because I think that assumes a level of coercion.
Very, 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 very easy to start getting into like calling things abusive when really they just might be kind of problematic or it might be a situation that people just need to look at more.
True.
And, you know, work through. As far as like what other people can do, like we have an apartment together, okay? We have finances tied together. We absolutely have to make judgment calls on how we're going to divvy up our finances, okay? Poppy and I in past years have made a bunch of financial decisions together, okay? I'm not working. I'm in a slightly different like physical situation with my body than Poppy is, all right? And so we are going to need to make decisions at some point. Okay, how much money can Poppy be spending, you know, with other partners? And theoretically that would work for me too, but like I don't have that many partners really, okay? All right, and Poppy's got way more than I do. So like we're gonna have to figure out what that looks like and what she's able to do financially with other people. Not for the, again, this isn't for the sake of control, but like what can we actually afford, okay? There is some stuff going on that we have to take care of our housing together.
Yeah, like I can't fly out my partners every weekend. There's just no way to financially feasibly do that. But can I bring out like my one girlfriend, Haley, in January? Yeah. You know, she has the PTO. There's room for it. ZZ's already cleared it. We've got the time figured out. We just got to get a plane ticket and good to go.
But there's considerations there, right? Like we ask our stuff at least, still ask each other. We still check in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like,
and even then there's boundaries with the household. Like the household has boundaries. Like for example, people don't come to our house unless they are, you know, willing to change up their soaps to something that is, you know, non-fragranced, because high fragrance stuff, especially like laundry detergents, deodorants, perfumes, all that shit, are very easy to set off migraines. And if you're planning to come here and make out with me, giving me a migraine is not going to be beneficial to that end, or to my partner for that matter, because even if I'm okay, I'm then taking care of them, which is taking me away from making out with you, right? Like,
No, I think that it's just the point is there's just some real life, like messy adult stuff that makes it hard to be like, well, you can't like ever have boundaries about like what your partner does with another person. Well, when we get to some of the nitty gritty down here, you got to make some decisions together. But
Yep.
you know, it's really a lot of times the nitty gritty house stuff. It's not really about like trying to control somebody like having a relationship or not.
well, and again, anytime someone uses the term control, especially in poly situations, it very much has a vibe of it of wanting to try to avoid hurt. And I think the thing is, and this is kind of what I was pointing out earlier with ghostly blurry face, is that like I just think that we need to shift our understanding into this idea that like I don't think you should unnecessarily lean into hurt, because I think that there is such a thing as being traumatized. I do think there's such a thing as going too far, but I also think that like being willing to be hurt, being willing to be broken open, being willing to deal with pain and the pain and suffering of a relationship ending or a relationship being difficult, there are times where that's really important, because I think there's actually good stuff in there. There's stuff that when you get through it, there's genuine, meaningful growth and change. As much as it's a pain in the ass sometimes, and trust me, it is a pain in the ass sometimes, there is a lot of really great positives that come out of this. I know for a fact Zena loves me. Like I can't, like, I have never been able to say that about any other partner. My BPD would just argue with me. I'm sitting there going, you know, my poly's creating problems. This partner's an issue. Some of my partners have like literally like started hate campaigns, or ex-partners. And like Zizi's like, but being poly is a part of you and I love all of you. Like to hear someone say that about you is really fucking profound. Like to acknowledge that this thing is part of you. It's really fucking cool. That Girl Production said, quick question about polyamory. What's the best way to explain how it's not inherently toxic? I've had some issues explaining it. The short version, without getting into a giant conversation, is that I would say polyamory is, as long as everyone's communicating and there is, you know, open agreements about how things like STIs and pregnancies are handled, I don't know how it could be toxic. The only way it could be toxic if there's some level of coercion, manipulation, or abuse, but that's true about, you know, monogamous relationships too. So like what makes them inherently toxic? I think the thing is, if they're making the claim that's inherently toxic, they have to demonstrate how.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, this is all just relationships. Don't get me wrong, there's definitely some pitfalls that you can run into when you start adding more and more like high level tense, you know, relationships in your life, but that could happen on the friendship level too. Kind of got to pick the people that are at least going to be in good faith with this one, because if they're not showed up in good faith, like willing to let their mind be changed, that's a really, really hard one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And Catgirl Productions, the idea that you can't open yourself to more than one person is bullshit.
There seems to be a way in which there's poly as a choice that you make. Okay, you make choices about who you're in a relationship with. All right. And there's also poly in the way of like an orientation, sexual orientation. There's something,
or relationship orientation, maybe.
Yeah, relationship orientation, right? There's something innate in you that drives you to this, or something that is like just kind of the ways that your feelings come up.
One of the things is that like ZZ actually finds it really adorable when I'm crushing on someone and will tease me and make fun of me. And so like there is a tendency to be like really like, you know, really excited for me in a way that's like actually kind of like the poly term compersion, like being happy for your partner's happiness. And ZZ is actually probably the best example of that. Like it's actually something I genuinely really appreciate about my fiance, is that like if any person I've ever met actually exemplifies compersion, it's kind of ZZ. Because like I get a crush on something. Like I've been super like lovey and crushy towards my new partner Haley, and we've been just vibing really well. And ZZ's been like incredibly just supportive and like thinking it's adorable, and like, you know, I'm like, hey, can I have a call? Can I do a call with you know, Haley tonight? And ZZ's like, yeah, that's fine. Like incredibly accommodating, but also part of that required me to show up in the relationship more. Like for a while, I wasn't really putting a lot of effort in because of depression and various other things. But now it's like we go to farmers markets, we make a point of going out, even if our date's just going out to Costco and getting ice cream and getting like hot dogs and stuff there and just chilling together. Like even that tiny little micro date is still something that like is meaningful. So like by putting in that effort into the relationship, when I ask for time with my other partners, it's not pulling time away from ZZ.
Well, that's right. The big request that, you know, we have is making sure to honor various relations.
Mhm.
That's kind of the arching thing. I had a question though.
Oh, the question I was just going to ask you is that your experience though? Is like just sort of this noticing this sort of compersion, this like, where it's like you'll see me with like a relatively new or healthy interaction, and like you saw how excited I was with Sage, or how excited I was with Noelle, or how excited I've been with Haley.
Yeah, no, that absolutely is. Gotta be careful sometimes though, because when people do things, I get mad.
It's very funny too, because Zizi's
Oh.
jealousy is never the things you expect. I'm literally talked about like having sex with one of my girlfriends in our bed, like changing the sheets afterwards, everything, all that stuff. But like literally being like, you know, yeah, no, I'm probably gonna get railed in our bed. And like literally Zizi's like, that's fine. But then Zizi's like, but if you play Moon Hunters without me, I swear to Christ. And it's like,
I will probably be crying.
yeah, like Zizi's like, if you play Overcooked without, if you play Overcooked without me, I will be so mad.
These are 4-player games, by the way. Okay, like they're also some of my favorites. Like
if you progress our farm in Stardew, I swear to Christ. This is the stuff that they get mad about. This is the stuff that this is the stuff they get jealous about.
Sex in the bed, whatever.
Just going down on a partner, not a problem. But like fucking like doing Overcooked 2 without ZZ, nope. That is divorce worthy.
No, you really need 4 people for Overcooked. Okay, like that game is set up to be exactly 4 really well. You get into some wonky stuff on the levels if you have like 2 or 3. Yeah, no, compersion's definitely a thing. Like I like Poppy feeling good. All right, so there's a writer, and I did writer's workshop when I was a teen, and this is a very soft-hearted man. Okay, definitely like as this person, but also like really just kind and soft-hearted. All right, and he ran this writers group. He's a professional writer, and we're talking about love one day. All right, and the thing that he said that always stuck with me was that love isn't just about the happy things. We're also talking about character flaws. All right, love is about loving all of a person, even their flaws, and that stuck with me a while. Like that wasn't the framework of love that like my family had. My family was toxic as hell. But like I really do believe in like, no, like there are times when I'm annoyed at Poppy. All right. She forgets to do something. Poppy will never rinse dishes like consistently. It's fine. That is just how that is. And you know what? I love her. Does she absolutely help with the dishes in the sink otherwise? Fuck yes. Absolutely. But just that one thing is just ADHD's like, nope. And so there's just like a whole bunch of stuff. I was like, no, like I love her. Like I love her flaws. And, you know, part of like relationships is also choosing your pain. Like, I know that there are things that annoy me about people, and you know what, I choose to be around anyways.
Well, and that's actually a really good point. In Mark Manson's book, The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fuck, which I highly recommend, there's a great part about choosing your pain. He's like, you know, I wanted to be a rock star, and I wanted to play a guitar, and I wanted to get as much pussy as possible. But then like, yeah, but I didn't want the pain of having to drag an amp up like stairs that were like violating OSHA standards, or, you know, play until my fucking fingers bled, or all that. Like, it is choosing pain. Like you are in some way choosing the things that you interact with. You know, if your partner is not motivated, we were just dealing with a situation with one of our friends where like their partner's not really motivated to kind of like start the adult process. And it's like, well, again, choose your pain. Do you really want to deal with this or not? And if you don't, that's fair. Like, that's a fair thing to do. And with Polly, the thing is that, like, again, it is choosing your pain. Like, I love all of my partners. I think they're all great. But the thing I have to be very careful about is, again, like, there's this thing in Poly where people tend to treat their partners as needs machines. Like, I go to get this need met with this partner, and this need met with this partner. And I don't ever think in those terms. And the reason for that is that, well, yes, it is sort of a unique effect of Poly that you can get your different needs met by different people. I don't ever think in those terms because I'm really just trying to relate to other people. I want to relate and interact with them. Starmass, do you too ever worry if you're going to scare someone away you really care about if you want to go to the next level? What do you mean by the next level? Like, are you talking about like trying to get another partner to move in? Like, what do you mean is the next level? Because like we've actually had conversations like that, me and ZZ. Like, as far as scare people away, I mean, yeah, there's been people who have been scared away. There's been people I've dumped. I mean, either because their behavior was super inappropriate or because, you know, they, like I said, the Australian trans girl got scared the fuck away. From friends to more, like someone you're being around. I mean, most of the time, most of the girls that I talk to are really clear up front. Like there's a girl I recently was talking to who, like, I unfortunately had to say, like, right now I'm kind of like polysaturated. I have enough partners, but like I genuinely like this girl. She's really cool. But if just asked directly, this is kind of why eventually I just kind of put aside the flirting and just say, what are we doing here? Like, what do you actually want? What do you actually need? Like that's kind of where it comes from. And I don't really ever find people to get scared off, especially if you're really upfront with them. Like with this person, I was like, yeah, I'm cool with being friends. I wouldn't mind being friends with benefits, but like, as far as like a partner to put energy and time into, don't really got that.
Yeah, if they're scared off like immediately, there might already be some there. Might be some stuff that they're having to work through. And I guess that's okay. Like that is a thing. Like you gotta be ready that like that is a possibility. There are some people I feel really close to, and part of me wants to talk to them about it. I feel like they're practically a partner already. Yeah, no. Like
Then just talk to them.
Yeah. So like Poppy framed this as a consent issue. This is we before the pandemic, especially went to a lot of conventions and all of that. There's people that you crush on, and Poppy had this thing of like, no, if I am really attracted to somebody, I would just tell them. I was like, huh, why? Because in my world, like, I don't always want to hear from every single person that like they liked me, especially because I wasn't always comfy. But again, I was coming from like a really more traumatized framework in that. Okay, but Poppy laid it out for me. It was like, no, like by telling them what my feelings are and what my intentions are, they have more ability to make choices in that situation. They could tell me no, they're not interested. They could tell me yes, they are interested. But this whole thing means that their consent actually gets honored in that, right? They actually get to choose what they want to do in that. And then when we're talking to conventions, it gets a little messier because you've got like hotel rooms and different events and people like
again, it's just about like, again, it's being upfront and it's about giving people consent. Like if I just tell people like, hey, I want to fuck you, like what is the problem with that? Like obviously if we're vibing and like we're genuinely like really connected, like then they're either going to say no or yes. It's really that simple.
This wraps us back around to it's okay to hurt sometimes, right?
Yeah, and it's like, the person may reject you.
Risk. You did take the risk, right? Like,
yeah, like the person who was interested in maybe me being a partner, like, I unfortunately had to reject them in the short term. Like this is a not now thing. Them at some point they might be a partner, but like right now it's just friends with benefits. As if the package is open. I said, right now these are the applications that are available where you're not hiring for this position right now. And this person was like, well, okay, well, I would like to sign up for the friend with benefit a position if possible, right?
Not the one that such a cute and sweet interaction. Oh my gosh, that was so nice.
Yeah, again, it was like,
well, saying honestly, having people be transparent about things is always really nice. We're all pretty awkward usually, but it sounds like something that is definitely a good thing to be able to do. Yeah, no, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, like unless there's some like really awful situation going on, okay, like no, like people just being upfront about what they want. No, it's nice.
Jacob Simpkins, thank you so much for the tier 1 sub. Dishes are the worst. Based Poppy. True. Right. Yeah, no, we've been having a lot of adventures with Polly lately. Sure. And we get into stuff with it. Like, there's different layers of stuff. We have to figure out how to navigate, like, how do we navigate relationships with people we both like? How do we navigate? Like, there's a whole bunch of things that just really require a lot of different discussions and a lot of communication. And sometimes they get rough. Sometimes our conversations, we got into a fight earlier today. Was it shitty? Yeah. Did we make it out of it? Yeah. Sometimes you work your way into it and sometimes you have to work your way out of it.
I want to be clear about something because you talk about BPD a lot on this channel. BPD, this could also go for mental illness. There are times where people do connect really fast or they do know that they attach really fast. And attaching really fast in and of itself, I don't think is the red flag, okay? Like people can't necessarily help the feelings that come up. However, you can still talk about what's going on. Do your best to get therapy. Try and work with your partner, okay? If there's attachment stuff, no, you might really need to get some therapy, okay? We've been there. We've done that. And so I don't want people to be scared away by somebody like rushing in necessarily, but like, can you talk to this person and slow things down, right? You're both going to have to give a little bit and compromise and figure out where you're both ready to go toward. Like, hey, are you getting texted a whole lot and you're just not really like comfy with that or not really able to keep up with that? Have the conversation, okay?